Hello, I'm Xian from Cardax. I have here Marvin from Genius Yield with me, and Marvin is the Chief Scientific Officer of Genius Yield. So, very happy to talk to you today. Hi, Marvin. How are you doing?
Hello, yes, I'm doing great. Yeah, happy to be here.
So, first of all, would you tell us about Genius Yield?
Yes, so Genius Yield is a DeFi project on Cardano, and we are building two main protocols. So our first one is a DEX based on an order book design to really take advantage of the UTXO kind of paradigms on Cardano. And on top of that, we're building a yield optimizer that will allow people to benefit from advanced trading strategies without being active, but by just placing liquidity in our vaults and benefit from high yield opportunities.
Oh, great. So you have a DEX. Can you introduce more about the model of the DEX and how does it work?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're trying to take a bit of we spent a lot of time trying to really innovate on the DEX space, looking at the space and also understanding deeply the Cardano paradigm. So Cardano is using an UTXO smart contract design, which is fundamentally different from an account-based model. And so a lot of the DEX design that we have, AMMs that were designed Ethereum, were specifically designed for an account-based model. And so they don't necessarily translate well onto UTXO or maybe are not the most efficient way to achieve a DEX functionality. So we went with an order book design, which we feel is much more compatible with the fragmented states and functional approach of a UTXO. And same thing for our pools. We have fragmented pools in a way they're not really pools. They're like, we can call them virtual pools. It's an aggregation of a lot of UTXOs that come together at specific prices for specific users that gives you the sick functionalities of earning yields like a pool, but is designed to be highly parallelizable. And so working well with Cardano to be able to scale well, but also this high level of fragmentation and parallelism allows us to be compatible with scaling solutions with Hydra or other sidechain like ZK rollups. And so we're really trying to really from the ground up design our DEX to take advantage of all the benefits that Kudos and the smart contract paradigms gives us. So yeah, that's kind of the idea.
Oh, nice. I hear you talk about the liquidity pools, right? So how do you connect such pools to an orderable DEX? Because from a traditional understanding, order book is buyers and sellers, they place their orders like on the order book, and the swap will be executed by matching those orders, correct? So you also have a liquidity pool. So, and how do you connect this liquidity pool to the order book DEX?
Yeah, that's a good question. So like you said, an order book and is more around, it's less of a swap, it's more of an order, right? A limit order where you place an order at a specific price and you place that order onto the blockchain. And then whenever you find a matching order that's willing to trade at the same price, that order can get processed by some kind of off-chain bots. And so that's the key difference with an AMM with Ethereum, where you would, every time you place an order, it gets triggered instantly at the market order, at the current price. So that's called a market order. So at the very core, just going with the order book, you actually deal at the core with limit orders. And like you said, you need to match them between buyers and sellers. We've added this concept of liquidity pools, where actually liquidity pools are very much similar to buyers and sellers, looking to trade at specific prices for specific tokens. The difference is that those liquidity pools are willing to trade in both sides. When a buyer and seller only want to buy or sell, and then the assets goes back to their wallet. For us, our liquidity providers. And so we don't really call them pools, we call them liquidity providers, are providing liquidity at certain prices, like limit orders, but they're willing to trade on both sides of the trade, so both buying and selling. And so that basically the amount of liquidity in their position stays the same. It just either goes towards one asset or the other assets. And the way they make money is every time they provide liquidity, they get a cut, they charge a fee. And that fee is paid by the person wanting to trade. And then you have a third entity, which is what we call the smart order routers. And so these are those off-chain bots that scans the blockchain and look for matches, right? So both, if they can find a perfect buy and sell order that matches in value, they will match them together. But very likely they'll need the help of the liquidity providers to provide that depth of liquidity to be, okay, I found this buying order that matches this liquidity provider. I'm going to match them together and then process them. And in one case for the buyer, the liquidity goes, the returned assets go back to their wallet, whereas for the liquidity provider, the return asset goes straight back to the pool to be able to process someone else's trade. And so we do have kind of three entities. We have the user that creates orders, you have the liquidity providers that provides liquidity, and then you have the smart order routers that matches them together. And they also make a profit by earning money from the spread of between the buy and the sell.
Oh, interesting. So let's explore more about those three rows. So as a trader, when I go to your DEX, what I do is place an order, right? Or either I place a sell order or buy order, as in an order book DEX. That's what a trader should do.
That's right, yes.
Okay. And as a liquidity provider, so I think there's some peculiarities here, right? Particular things that a liquidity provider should do as opposed to on an ANM DEX. So it is there that if I'm a liquidity provider, I should provide a pair of tokens, I suppose. Let's say James and Ada, right?
So you're right. The interface is a bit different. On a regular AMM pool, you just provide liquidity at all prices, right? So your liquidity is going to be traded at whatever price is being traded, which is simple, which makes it easy for people to participate, but it also turns out to can be very inefficient. You introduce the problem of impermanent loss, for example, and you cannot, once your liquidity is in the pool, you cannot prevent someone from trading your liquidity at a very low price. And so what our design allows you with our virtual fragmented pools is you can provide liquidity at very specific prices or at a range of price. And so you say, okay, I only want my liquidity to be traded between this price and this price. And then whenever the current price, the spot price goes above and below, I don't want to participate, right? So it gives much more flexibility for the liquidity provider to concentrate the few liquidity that they have into exactly the prices that they want to trade at. So that's, and at the same time, it allows them to optimize their liquidity. So they can then move their liquidity around based on the moving price. So as the price moves, you will see liquidity provider move their price to match the demands. You can think of the liquidity provider providing the supply of liquidity, and then the users providing the demand for liquidity. And then they both need to dynamically optimize, follow each other. Maybe the downside, or maybe like the drawback of that method, is that it makes the job of a liquidity provider a bit more difficult, right? So they need to constantly adjust their liquidity and make sure that it's within the range that people are making trades. Otherwise, if they're providing liquidity where no one's trading, they don't make any fees. And that's why we actually are building our yield optimizer. Is we realize by building a more powerful, flexible DEX, it's good for like day traders that want to constantly optimize their positions. But for most of us that just want to have maybe a hassle-free, passive way of earning yields, then we need some other tooling that allows that. So instead of bringing that simplicity to the DEX, we actually bring that simplicity one layer above, where then we create vaults that people can place liquidity, just like a pool, and say, okay, there'll be different vaults with different strategies. And so you'll place your liquidity based on the strategy that you feel comfortable with. Some strategies are a bit more risky. Some strategies will have more of a long-term view on the pair or more of a short-term view. Some strategies will be trade on volatilities. So you're able to like have this explosion of different vaults that can trade based on the user's preferences. And then those vaults will have trading bots that will be able to connect directly to the Genius DEX, and then using our concentrated liquidity, but also our smart swaps, which we can talk about after this, by using both our smart swap functionalities and our liquidity, concentrated liquidity functionality, execute advanced trading strategies automatically for the user, and then generating yields for people depositing their liquidity into our yield optimizer.
It's really a plus for a normal DeFi user, I would say. So it seems that there is an algorithm or something that will help those users that deposit their funds into the vaults. Like, who is taking care of this investment strategy, and who is doing this, implementing such strategies on a daily basis?
Yeah, so that's what this is where the machine learning or AI part comes into place, right? So you need, like you said, someone to build those algorithms, but also train them. So those models are not going to be fixed. They're going to be trained based on data. And that's where the machine learning comes in. It's algorithms that by feeding it data, they learn on themselves the right functions, the right decision boundaries to make the right decisions. And then we need to evaluate their performance, make sure they don't have any biases, or they're able to react to certain market conditions. And so we have an R&D team, the Genius Labs team, that is building a research platform. And so we're building a lot of tooling that will allow us to go back in time and rerun the history of certain transactions on the blockchain and be able to test out different strategies, different trading strategies, and evaluate them on their performance and how well they react, and kind of get a sense of how much yield we can get out of those strategies. And then out of dozens or hundreds of different strategies we'll try out, we'll just pick a few ones, the best ones, and then deploy that to the users, where then they can make use of those. And then those strategies will be running automatically. And then there'll be also like a maintenance process where we may have to tweak or maybe improve those strategies over time, or even create new strategies and deprecate old ones. So there'll be like an entire kind of marketplace of different strategies that initially the Genius Labs teams is going to be deploying, training and deploying, but eventually we want to get to a point where people can start building their own strategies. So because what the vaults use is just the functionalities that are available on the Genius X, right? The smart swaps and the concentrated liquidity. So in theory, anyone could build their own strategies by using the same functionalities. And so then we can, I'm sure that people will start building their own bots themselves. And then we can also create an interface to make it easy for people to kind of build their own strategies, build their own vaults. And so we can have some called like community vaults, where community will come up with maybe better algorithms than we do, and kind of give it to the community. And in a way, they will be able to earn a portion of the fee because they'll be the author of the strategy. And so whoever deposits into their vaults earn a value. And that's a bit like what Yearn does on Ethereum, right? The author of the trading strategy gets a cut of the entire profit of the pool. And it's a way of involving the community into designing those vaults, but also like decentralizing the process of coming up with better and better algorithms.
Yeah, great. So a user to using these vaults, can the users deposit only one single token, or it needs to be a pair?
So in the pool, if the strategy is trading over 2 tokens, then you can place 2 or you place 1, and then we'll manage the rest. But it also depends maybe on the internal strategy, but it would be one or 2.
Great. So since Cardas and Genius Yield has a partnership, so I expect that there will be about consist of the CDX token on your platform, right?
Yes. So the goal is to have a pool or a trading pair set up with your token, and then be able to support your liquidity, both with liquidity providers providing your liquidity, but also having smart order routers, right? Those bots, if there's liquidity but no bots, right, the orders don't get matched. So there's also setting up those bots, or even the community setting up those bots to make sure that that pair is being traded efficiently and can scale.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, let's talk about this smart order routers. So what do they do, and who are they? Who are running these bots?
Yeah, so I mean, in a way, they are similar to what SundaeSwap is doing with the scoopers. And the reason why we've introduced those off-chain processing is it actually is what makes sense on Cardano, right? On Cardano, you want computation to happen off-chain and then just verification of the transaction on-chain. And so it allows you to offload a lot of the complexity off the chain, which is actually a feature of the blockchain. And since everything are limit orders, technically on the for our dexes, then there's two steps for an order, right? You first need to submit the order, and then the order gets placed onto the blockchain, and then that blockchain needs to be picked up by some off-chain bots to be processed. And that's the difference with an AMM on Ethereum is as soon as you submit the order gets processed instantly into the pool. There's no secondary step that someone else needs to process it. And so that's why we need those bots, really. Otherwise, those orders would just sit there, and then unless manually people would match them, they would not be processed. So you need, basically, they're the lifeblood of the DEX. They're the reason why the DEX is running as is based on the performance of the bots. So initially, those will be through vetted partners, right, or ISPOs or SPOs. So people that have experience running Cardano nodes, Cardano infrastructure, and really can provide the best possible performance and user experience for our users. Obviously, you want your orders to be processed as fast as possible. In exchange, they obviously make a profit for processing those orders. But really, the long-term vision is to move towards decentralization. Right? You have these third parties where now you can get to a point where you can start allowing other people to run their own routing bot themselves, and also write their own routing algorithm. Right? So initially we'll provide the initial routing algorithm, and then we'll make sure everyone runs the same one. So we don't have like misbehavior or adversarial way of handling the DEX. But as we scale and get more volume, and create more competition, that we can open up where people can start tweaking their own routing algorithm. And you can imagine that different bots will optimize different strategies, right? Maybe some bots are only looking for very large orders, and then maybe try to do like partial filling of those orders, or ordering, or other bots are looking for high spreads. Other bots are just looking at volume, trying to get as many trades in as possible. And so we want that competition, because at the end of the day, when the more competition there is, the better the user experience, because everyone's fighting for those extra fees, and it results that extra competition results in a better user experience for the user.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, great. So you have a plan of how to, let's say, recruit or elect such initial bots at the beginning? You have a plan of how to expand such kind of people or state operators. They are capable of doing such job in the future.
Yes, so we're discussing different strategies of what would be the first step of setting up this kind of first group of partners for running those bots, and how we're going to start moving toward decentralization. I cannot make any announcement today. We'll still have a lot of different things we're trying to work with, and we also want to make sure that the final design of those bots is kind of set before we make any announcement. And the reason is, with great power comes great responsibility, right? Those bots can do a lot and can have a big impact on the DEX, and therefore there is an incentive to maybe have adversarial effects, or it could be an attack vector. on the DEX. And so you have to be very careful of not introducing too many bad actors right away and not setting up the right incentives. And so because we have three parties, the user, the liquidity providers, and the routers, you need to create the perfect balance of incentives to make sure that everyone behaves correctly. Everyone is incentivized to participate, but also not incentivized to cheat or affect the DEX in a negative way. And so that's where we spend actually a lot of our time is not necessarily like building the initial functionalities, but also like researching about the different ways things can be manipulated and used so that we can create the right incentives so we can have a well-balanced DEX that can be as open as possible.
Yeah. So can you explain about your native token, GEMS token, like what role it plays in your ecosystem?
Yeah, absolutely. So the GEMS token is our native token at Genius Yield. It is not used for payments or transactions. It is what we call like a utility token. And so as it is with utility tokens, the first use case is governance. So be able to use your GEMS tokens to vote in decisions that are made on the protocols, improvement protocols. But also it will be, we're gonna have a staking program. So we call it the GEMS staking program, where people that stake their GEMS into this vault will be able to earn a portion of the profits earned by the platform. So right now we have it as all the profits made on the DEX and the yield optimizer, 20% of that will go back and you get redistributed back to the user, right? So as a GEMS holder, right, the more traffic and as the DEX grows and becomes more popular, a portion of those revenues goes straight back to the users, straight back to the community to reward them for being part of the Genius Yield community. And then on top of that, we also provide a liquidity mining incentives. So especially to boost APY, especially at the beginning, we have tokens set aside where anyone that's staking GEMS tokens will be able to earn extra yield on their staking by earning more GEMS to our liquidity mining. But liquidity mining incentives are always temporary, right? Because we don't have as many tokens as we don't have any limited number of tokens. And so that will be for the early adopters that really want to join and believe in the project. They'll be rewarded with extra yield, and eventually we'll run out of that. And the entire platform, the entire yield generated from the staking will come from revenues from the platform.
Yeah, great. Can you introduce about your team?
Yes, so we're a big team. We have 4 main founders, partner. So Laurent, our CEO, and Soti, both are co-founders, and they have a lot of experience. Laurent, a serial entrepreneur, building multiple companies in the past. Soti is really our legal experts, and you're helping us a lot with the compliance and the legal aspects. And then, of course, we have our CTO, Lars, that most people know, very famous educator on IOHK, and also our CTO helping us really in the design and development of smart contracts. And then me as CSO really helping with the design of the DEX, and also a lot with the yield optimizer, building these algorithms. I have more of a machine learning background, so this is where really I help out build the strategy on that side of the product.
Yeah, it's very wonderful team. Yeah, so thank you, Marvin, for taking your time to join this podcast today. Understand a lot more about your project. So we really enjoyed this chat, and hope to catch up soon. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you very much. It was nice talking to you.